Hey everyone, welcome to the S.T.E.M Success Summit. My name is Fernando Ceballos. I will be your presenter for this presentation. This one is called Management Training for the Invested S.T.E.M Professional. Like I mentioned, my name is Fernando. I am a licensed professional civil engineer in the state of Texas. I work in land development projects and have been working on those projects in that industry for the last 6 years or so. I graduated from Texas A&M University back in December 2013 with a degree in civil engineering, and I've been working with the same company ever since. The goal of this presentation, this workshop, is to help you all gain perspective and just learn a little bit about what I've done and what you can do to gain some valuable management experience through your involvement in several nonprofit organizations or student organizations. Again, a lot of the work that I've done has been around working with nonprofits, and a lot of it has been win-win situations where I've been able to give back to an organization to help them fulfill their mission and their vision, and at the same time I've been able to gain and build valuable professional skills. So some of those organizations that I've been a part of are the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, the American Society of Civil Engineers, some local organizations as well here. And again, a lot of them are focused on helping other young professionals and students pursuing their degrees to gain valuable skills. And so, again, I'm going to go into it on this presentation. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them down. There's going to be a chance for me to jump in at the end and answer some questions. And then if you guys don't have the time or you're looking at the rerun or the recap of this video, feel free to reach out to me on social media. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before I do that, I want to just thank Nehemiah, the creator of S.T.E.M Media, for giving me this opportunity to present to you all. I'm really excited about the S.T.E.M Success Summit, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here with the first year kicking off. So one of the things that I mentioned briefly is finding value in helping others, right? Developing that win-win situation. We're able to gain these skills that we can apply in the workforce. And so again, I'm going to go really into detail, but I kind of want to highlight that term win-win situation. What I mean by that when I mention win-win is what it says there. It's both parties are getting something out of it. And so when I help someone else out, they're getting the benefit of me helping them out, and in return, I either find opportunities to build my personal brand, I find opportunities to build my resume, or I just get the personal satisfaction of knowing that I'm helping someone. And so that could be something as easy as helping a kid learn the understanding of what STEM stands for, what engineers do, and so that gives me the benefit and the feeling of success of knowing that I'm helping build someone's life. And to me, that's enough to feel like it's a win-win situation. And the other term I'm going to be talking about a lot is professional development. And so what I'm going to read it from here is the term professional development may be used in reference to a wide variety of specialized training. And that's going to be the one where we talk a lot about today is specialized training, formal education, or advanced professional learning intended to help improve professional knowledge, competence, skill, and effectiveness. And so for me, specialized training really boils down to getting hands-on experience and getting it to try these different skills firsthand and being able to make mistakes, being able to learn on the fly, being able to, be in stressful situations, because to me, that's the development of training. And so you're going to become specialized in your skill set when you get the chance to really practice those skills, and not just to the other section here is formal education. You can always read something in class, but if you don't get a chance to practice it and learn from it, it's going to be tough for it to be ingrained in your mind and know how to effectively move in the right direction. And so this is going to kind of be the agenda for today, some of the points that we're going to be taking a deeper dive in, and then just explaining to you all some of the ways that I got this experience and some of the way that a lot of the members and students and young professionals that I work with were able to build their resume and able to build these skills. And so the critical management skills that we're going to talk about today is the top managers in industry constantly work on developing the following skills. And those are strategic thinking, team management, emotional intelligence, business development, public speaking, and motivational. And I'll explain what each one of those are. But again, if you guys have questions, please start putting them into the Slack channel, or if you're listening to the rerun, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. So strategic thinking. This is the process that defines the manner in which people think about, access, view, and create the future for themselves and others. And so the visual that comes to mind whenever I think about strategic thinking is playing chess. There's so many different scenarios, so many different routes that you can take when you're playing chess that can really impact the overall outcome of the game, whether that be the opening, whether that be the middle game, or the end game. But it's important to think about, if you open up, for those of you who do play chess, if you open up with a pawn a certain way, it's going to be able to help you develop either a bishop or a queen. It's going to help you, give you exposure for a knight, but you're always thinking about 2 or 3 steps further along. I know sometimes when you play chess, or when you checkers, or a different board game, it's all about like, what can I do right now to help me find points? Because you're racing towards the first to 100 or the first to 20, and it's always a matter of like, how do I get more bang for my buck right now? But when you're playing chess, you're thinking about the end game. Sometimes it's sometimes even worth sacrificing certain things because it's going to allow you to win the game overall. And so I'm going to talk about chapter goals, key chapter partnerships, develop sustainable programs, and chapter initiatives. And so I kind of want to talk about what a chapter is, right? A chapter is essentially a student organization, or it is a chapter, a group of people who represent a particular geographical area in a you can call it a global or a national organization. And so in this chapter, there's different goals being implemented, right? For example, I'm gonna use the chapter that I'm a part of, the Dallas Fort Worth Professional Chapter for SHIP, and I'm gonna talk about certain strategic goals that we have. As a chapter goal, it is to be able to bring in members who are more middle management, members who are in their senior, point in their career. And so that could be a chapter goal, right? And so the way we're going to do that is by developing initiatives and programs that are going to, get the attention of these individuals. It's not just a matter of going to go get them. You need to take certain steps in order for that to be able to happen. And so again, in thinking about chapter goals, you're thinking about how to be strategic in every step that you take, because you can, implement and deploy all of your members to work on a particular initiative. But if that's not helping you build, helping you to get closer to the direction, or helping you get closer to bringing those members in, that's not really fulfilling the chapter goals, right? And so that's kind of what it boils down to, is when you're thinking about how do I develop programs and initiatives that are going to help me in the right direction, you start thinking about bigger picture. You're not just thinking about how is it going to help me. And so another example here is developing key chapter partnerships. You're always thinking about the end goal in mind. If you're just thinking, how do I work with a company who can give me money to pay for a meeting, right? Whether that be paying for pizza or paying for type of food or resources, you have to think about it bigger picture. What could a partnership with a company look like in a university if you were to develop a yearly partnership? And what that means is you're no longer asking them for money for just 1 year. You're asking them to give you support to be able to develop programs throughout the whole year. So instead of them just coming in and talking to you all about their company for a few minutes or for an hour or so, you're thinking about, how do I bring them in for a study session? How do I bring them in for mentorship? How do I bring them in for a career fair? How do I bring them in for a tour at a facility? And so again, that's another way of thinking about strategic thinking, of bigger picture. And then, I kind of briefly mentioned the sustainable programs and chapter initiatives, but it boils down again to big picture. You're not just thinking about the semester, but you're thinking about, how does this impact the leadership and student leaders or future chapter leaders are going to be coming in next year to be thinking about those type of things. Another skill here is team management. This kind of boils down to the ability of an individual or organization to administer and coordinate a group of individuals to perform a task. There's a difference between being a leader and having influence and having what is the word? I'm blanking out, guys. I'm sorry. Having authority versus influence. That's what it is. Having authority versus influence, and so there's a big difference between having influence and helping and trying to push people in the right direction with your words, with the way you make them feel, with the leadership that you're providing them, and having authority versus because you're telling them, hey, I'm your boss and I tell you what to do. And so in being a good team leader, you're able to develop that influence and you're able to organize your team. You're able to tell them, hey, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be doing that. And together, every single one of us is going to have a different part of this project or a different part of this program, but collectively we're going to move in the right direction. Because when you solely rely on authority, you're not going to get very far in life, because without a title, people don't listen to you. And even with a title, sometimes people are not willing to follow your lead because they don't want to follow you, right? And so it's important for you to develop that influence. And one thing that's really cool about being part of a student organization or being part of a nonprofit / volunteer organization is usually the only way you're able to get people to do something for you is by developing influence. Authority only goes so far when you're not getting paid. And being part of an organization, a student organization, or of a nonprofit, like I mentioned earlier, you have to have that influence because you're not giving people an incentive, a financial incentive. And so for them, it's like, hey, you can be my boss, you can be the president of a chapter, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to do what you're asking me to do because you're not paying me to do so. So I'd rather just go somewhere else, or I'd rather just, do things my own way. So it's important to think about it that way. And so I think a lot of times when I work with students and young professionals who are part of these organizations, they're like, yeah, I'm just a president, or I'm just a vice president, or I'm just a director of programs. Well, no, like, that's a huge deal, right? And so to tie it all together is, if you're able to delegate tasks and you're able to influence your teams to fulfill these tasks, imagine what you can do at work when you're able to build influence and you have authority. Putting those together, then you're really going to be effective when it comes to fulfilling your tasks and also helping people move in the right direction at work. And so, again, another highlight here is providing direction, delegating tasks, and then reaching milestones or adjusting. And I kind of briefly mentioned those, but it's important as a team, as a manager of a team, is to be able to say, hey, I think we're not moving in the right direction. Instead of trying to continue to at this, let's go ahead and adjust and pivot into a different direction. And so it's important to work on those skills, because I oftentimes work with people who have analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis, and they get all of this information overload and they're just not able to commit to a task. They're not able to commit to a decision, and then nothing gets done. And so what's cool about working in a volunteer organization is that there isn't a lot of risk associated with making certain mistakes. Yes, there is risk, but not to a point where you're going to get fired, not to a point where you're jeopardizing thousands of dollars. It's just more of a mistake that you're going to be able to learn from and move on. And so it's cool to know that as you're doing all these different managerial skills and managerial tasks in a nonprofit, how they're able to translate over to the professional world, and again, developing that callus or creating that callus in your mind, and being able to know that, hey, I've been here before, I've been stressed out before, and I know how to move in the right direction. I know what the next step is. And so that kind of ties into the emotional intelligence. For those of you who don't know what that is, there's IQ and there's EQ. And so IQ is all about your technical development, right? Knowing how much you know and how much you're able to apply it from an educational standpoint or an academia standpoint. Emotional intelligence is more about knowing how to either work with your own emotions or being able to work with other people's emotions. And so a lot of times you work with, especially in the STEM world, we work with people who are very technical driven, who are all about the numbers, who are very cynical, and sometimes they lack compassion and empathy. And so if you're able to be a very technical, if you have a strong technical foundation and you have a strong emotional foundation as far as the EQ goes, you're able to really understand how to work with people. And so I mentioned it earlier, having that influence, and the way you develop influence is by knowing how to work with different people's personalities, knowing how to work with their strengths, and being able to manage those relationships to be able to effectively communicate. Because you hear about the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. And there's a platinum rule, treating people how they want to be treated. And so when you have a strong emotional intelligence, you're able to understand how people want you to talk to them. You're able to understand, what drives them. I think oftentimes we rely on thinking that people are driven by money or people are driven by titles. And so, oftentimes that's the case, but it's not always the case. And so when you're able to build that emotional intelligence, you'll be able to understand what truly drives people. Sometimes people are driven by the fact that they just want to know that they did a good job. They want to know that they didn't they did not let the team down. And so as you're working in these organizations and you're volunteering and you're building your management skills, think about how you treat others, because the way you treat people in the volunteer organizations is the way you're going to treat other people in a corporate environment. And so if you're able to, again, have the influence when you're not getting paid and we're not paying people in a corporate setting, you're going to be able to really understand what's driving others. And so I think the other part is knowing people's strengths and knowing, what's driving them, as far as like what they're good at. Some people are really good communicators. Some people are really good at, working on a single task. Some people are really good at working in groups. And so if you're a leader in these organizations, you're able to, delegate and deploy different initiatives, deploy different tasks, and you're able to really understand how to motivate others. And as you start, making mistakes and making people upset, making people happy, you'll be able to create that toolbox in your mind of knowing, hey, maybe I shouldn't push people who like to work like this way, so that you can try to avoid making those mistakes in the future. Same thing goes with personalities. Some people don't like being called out in front of a group. Some people need that because they need the accountability from a group environment. Others like being called out in private, one-on-one, and being very, very intentional with laying out the steps and the different learning outcomes that you want a person to learn from. And so that's the only way you can provide constructive feedback, is by letting them know what they made a mistake in and how they can fix it and what the steps that they can take are. And again, these are different examples of what you're going to be doing to be able to build that emotional intelligence. But just as a reminder, this goes very far in a corporate setting, because those who are able to build empathy and are able to understand others are going to get the furthest and are going to be able to develop those management skills that are going to help them go in the management route if that's the route they want to take. And so another item here is business development. When you think about, the steps and tasks that a company has to do and an organization has to do to be able to bring in new business or keep business, it goes a long way, right? But it's to be said that those who are good at sales are going to be good business development, individuals. Those who are able to build a common ground with others are going to go far in business development. And so all of these things, they're tangibles to business development, because if you don't know how to sell yourself, you're not going to be able to sell your company. If you don't know how to effectively communicate, you're not going to be able to sell your company. If you're not going to be able to build some sort of common ground with someone, you're not going to be good at business development. And so ways to practice that, I'm going to go back to the chapter operations standpoint, is there's 4 different things that I have up here: sponsorship packets, marketing initiatives, membership growth and retention, networking and negotiations. Let's go into sponsorship packets. So for those of you who are not familiar with those, sponsorship packets are essentially what it sounds like. It is a document, a packet that you're able to take to a company or to a group of, or an organization that says, hey, this is um, again, this is an organization that's putting this packet together, and this packet contains information of the programs, the initiatives, the statistics, the impact, the people involved, all of the information that makes your chapter and your organization special, and why certain person you're going after or company you're going after should partner with them. That's what a sponsorship packet is. And so you're essentially selling your services and asking for either some sort of bartering, request, or you're asking for financial requests, right? So maybe you could be telling a company, hey, if you want to be a partner with us, we're asking for $500, and in return, you're going to get access to premium talent in our members. You're going to get access to giving a presentation to our members to learn more about your company, and we're going to provide you a resume book of all of the different resumes that are members of our members, right? And so that could be an example there. And I think a sponsorship packet is something very unique because it comes down to how you're able to effectively communicate that what you're trying to give the company is worth the money that you're asking for. Because I think a lot of times the things that you put in these packets are very subjective. And so, putting a price to your members could be difficult, but if you're able to do so effectively, when you transition over to corporate America into corporate America, and you're trying to sell a laptop, or you're trying to sell your tech, or you're starting to sell new software, you're going to be able to really sell what it is that you're providing or wanting to, trade with this company, and getting this practice is going to be very, very crucial, and getting the skills necessary to be successful in your career. And I think this could even go as far as to say that if you're good at selling these packets, or you're good at selling the organizational services, you're going to be good at selling yourself. And so when it comes to an interview and talking about your resume and sharing what it is that you bring to the table, this is going to also give you an example of a framework that you can follow to be successful at selling yourself. Another part is marketing initiatives. We're in a social media world, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's collateral that needs to be built. There is videos to be made. There is pictures to be shared. And if you are successful at being able to put a print, at being able to put this image of building a story, of getting people interested in the product that you're selling, or the organization that you're selling, and building followers and that kind of thing, that can go a very long way in the corporate America as well. And so again, you're building these skills, you're building these examples, and building your toolbox. As to when you get to the corporate America, you're able to deploy these different techniques that you've learned in working through with nonprofits. Membership growth and retention, again, very self-explanatory. It's focused on bringing members and then keeping the members that you have involved. When you think about selling an organization, you can either sell it as as a pathway to getting a job. You can sell it as a family, as a familia. You can sell it as a network. You can sell it as building technical development, building technical skills. There's different ways to try to incentivize people to join your organization, but it goes a long way to be able to think about it as, if you move to a management route one day and you want to keep your employees happy, if you want to keep your employees, moving in the right direction and excited to work in an environment, these are things that you're going to have to learn. You're not going to just be able to read it from a book and say, okay, this is how I get my people to be excited. This is how I get my people to want to continue to come to work and not go to a different company. As you practice these skills in these organizations, again, you'll be able to deploy the same framework that you've learned in being involved in these organizations. And so networking and negotiations, right? I talked about negotiations, but networking is a big one. You go to happy hours, you go to different career fairs, and there's these tables, there's these booths, and if you don't know how to talk to people from a standpoint of doing small talk or being able to get to the chase like really really effectively or quick, you're going to struggle with having people wanting to talk to you about working with you, right? And so again, back to the example of a nonprofit, you have to be out there getting people to join your organization, and just networking with others, right? To keep them involved and keep them engaged. Public speaking, and so I think this is a skill that everybody needs. I think Warren Buffett was one that said, your first investment should be in public speaking. That could be getting involved in organizations such as Toastmasters, who their sole purpose is to work on public speaking. But public speaking is going to get you very far. We talked about communication already, but the effective communication is very, very important. A lot of times we talk for hours and days, and we say nothing. And so it's important to be able to get to the point, but be thoughtful and intentional with the words that you're using. But the thing to mention is, how do you get good at public speaking? Again, it's not something that you can watch a YouTube video on or read a book on. And so for me, it's been a lot of practice, throughout these last couple of years. I've been doing this for a little while now, and the way I got good at it was through S.T.E.M outreach. I got a chance to get involved with SHIP, again, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, to go and give talks to elementary kids. And I think one of my biggest struggles and obstacles was giving presentations to my peers. I oftentimes didn't struggle a lot with talking to people who were younger than me, but talking to my peers was what I struggled with. And so I said, what, how do I get better at public speaking and not being so nervous? Because I would always by default just start sweating, and I could be as calm as possible, but no matter what, my body went into shock and by default wanted to start sweating. And so what I did was I got involved with SHIP and started going to elementary schools and giving presentations on what I did as a civil engineer. I would still make mistakes. I would still stutter. I would still sweat. But after a few times, I said, what's the big deal? These kids are learning no matter what. They're not going to judge me on the mistakes that I've made. The only person that is judging is myself. And so why stress about it? So I started having fun with it. I started talking to kids about how I played Minecraft for a living, how I played SimCity for a living, but I just happened to use different software. I explained to them how they can be superheroes, Iron Man, mechanical engineers, the Hulk, chemical engineers. And so all these different things that I tried with these kids, gave me helped me build my confidence. It helped me, feel more comfortable in my own skin, and helped me feel more comfortable in giving these presentations. And so what I did was I moved to middle school, and then I moved to high school, and then I moved to universities. And now I'm at a point where I'm completely comfortable giving presentations to my peers and my superiors, and it's no longer something that phases me. Yes, I still get nervous. Yes, I still freak out sometimes. But at the end of the day, all of this practice helped me get more comfortable in public speaking. And I think a lot of times it's just getting the reps. If you don't get the practice in, and you only do this, once a quarter or once a year, it's going to be tough because you're just not going to feel comfortable, and you're not going to be able to go to that emotional place to be able to say, hey, I've done this before, and it's not that big of a deal. Other ways to get public speaking experience is, by hosting a meeting, by leading the meeting and making sure it's on time, making sure people aren't, going on and on their sections. And so, being able to tell them, hey, your time is up, let's move on. That helps you build a callus to also be able to lead meetings effectively. Hosting a workshop, similar to the S.T.E.M outreach, and then S.T.E.M advocacy, something like this, for example, where it's talking to a camera, where it's talking to your phone, and just creating STEM videos, STEM content, or going out there and talking to schools or different teachers and explaining to them what you do and what your career path is. Again, all of this is going to be able to give you the opportunity to build the experiences and get some more repetitions in so that you can get more comfortable in public speaking. And so this next slide here is motivational. The reason for people's actions, desires, and needs. Motivation is also one's direction to behavior or what causes a person to want to repeat a behavior. So it's something to say or something to think about is, keeping your team focused, encouraging members, team morale, and leadership, right? So if you want to be motivational, if you want to be able to be a strong leader and build influence, you're going to have to be able to motivate people. And the reason I say that is it's going to happen over and over and over in your corporate career. It's going to happen over and over and over in an organization and student orgs and nonprofits, that people are going to be discouraged. They're going to wake up one morning and say, why am I wasting my time doing this? Why do I care so much? Why am I doing this or that? And when you're able to build, your emotional intelligence, when you're able to become an effective communicator, when you're able to, build that influence, you're going to be able to motivate others and say, hey, the reason why you should be doing this is because these are your strengths, these are your drivers, and you care about this. Today's just a rough day. Today it's just one of those off days, and at the end of the day, we're moving in the right direction and we're making an impact and we're fulfilling our mission and vision. And we're going to continue to make an impact because you have the skills necessary to be successful. And so that in itself, that little nugget right there, can go a long way in your corporate career, because people are going to be working with you and they're not going to be motivated to give you 100%, 100% of the time. And it's going to be your job and your responsibility to be able to motivate them, on day to day, and be able to say, hey, today might be a tough day, but let's be effective, right? Let's be efficient in what we're doing, and let's focus on this one task, right? Let's forget about everything. We have a lot of stuff going on, but let's just worry about this one thing. And then, that builds momentum. And again, having this skill of being a motivator and being a leader and being a manager goes a long way in corporate America, which at the end of the day, everything we're talking about today is to be a better leader in corporate America, but also to be a better leader in your family, to be a better leader in the community. And so bringing all of this together, right, at the end of the day, the most critical component of everything you do will be your perspective and how you decide to apply the skills you have gained through volunteering. I know a lot of people who do all of this work in volunteer work. They're leaders in student organizations. They're leaders in nonprofits in the professional world, and they do this just to be able to build their resume, or they do this to be able to win an award, or they do this to be able to get a new job. And those are all real reasons, right? And they're all legitimate reasons to be involved. But I think it boils down to perspective. I think, I've also talked to people who I tell them, hey, let's go do community outreach. Let's go talk to these kids. And like, why would I waste my time talking to kids? I got my own kids. Or, hey, let's go do this. Like, why would I waste my time, talking to kids when I have to, build my resume, or I have to develop these technical skills, or I don't have to be a good public speaker because I'm not a manager yet. And so you think about all these different things, and it's like playing chess, right? You are a entry-level engineer, or you are still a student in college and you're a really bad public speaker. You can wait to graduate and then wait 5 years to become a project manager, and then you can become a good public speaker. And then maybe by that time it'll be too late, because someone else who took the time to become a good public speaker in college, to hone their craft in their first couple of years in their career, beat you out on that particular job, right? And so it's important for you to be thinking about playing chess, right? How do you move the pieces now so that in the end game you're in position to take advantage of this opportunity? It's better to be prepared for an opportunity that doesn't come than be unprepared for an opportunity you can't take advantage of. And so again, connecting the dots, everything we do, everything we talked about, the intention is making sure that everything we're doing is going to help us, be in position to take advantage of that goal that we're trying to get to in the future. And just the picture here, some awards, some opportunities to talk to students in the university level. all came from just my ambition of wanting to just help one person. Little by little, new leadership roles came in, new awards came in, but I was never chasing those. Those just came with the territory of helping people out. And so that kind of wraps up this presentation on developing skills for management. I want to thank you all for taking the time to check out this presentation. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, there's going to be a section here where you all can ask some questions. But if not, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Twitter. I'd say the most effective one that I'm probably going to reply to is going to be Instagram on DM. I'll reply to all of them, but I'll be more responsive on Instagram for sure. So without further ado, we'll jump over to questions. And again, thank you all for tuning in.